What no one knew was that behind my million-dollar auctions and sophisticated galleries, I was laundering money for some of the most dangerous families in the country. It was a dangerous game, but one that brought me more wealth than I ever dreamed. That night, as I greeted corrupt politicians and dirty businessmen with fake smiles, my eyes met his from across the room. Tall, dark, wearing a Tom Ford suit that cost more than a luxury car, he had a magnetic presence that made my world stop for a few seconds. It wasn't just his devastating good looks that caught my attention, but something in his dark eyes that seemed to hide secrets as dangerous as my own. He approached with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting whatever they want. When he spoke my name in that deep, velvety voice, I felt a shiver run down my spine. Diego Vasconcelos. I knew that last name, of course. The Vasconcelos family controlled the drug trade in 3 Brazilian states, but they also had legitimate businesses worth billions. He was the heir to one of the country's most powerful criminal empires, and I should have run in the opposite direction at that very moment. But I didn't run. Instead, I accepted the glass of Dom Perignon champagne he offered me and let him lead me to the private balcony of his presidential suite. The nighttime view of São Paulo stretched before us like a carpet of diamonds, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. We talked for hours about art, about power, about the dangerous games we both played. There was a chemistry between us that was almost palpable, an attraction that went far beyond the physical. When he kissed me for the first time, with the entire city at our feet, I knew I was lost. His lips tasted of danger and unspoken promises, and when his strong hands cupped my face, I felt like I was surrendering to something much bigger than myself. We spent the entire night talking, laughing, getting to know each other in a way I'd never experienced with any other man. The following months were the most intense of my life. Diego showed me a world I had never imagined. Dinners in private restaurants where only 15 people were served each night, trips on private jets to paradise islands that didn't appear on any map, expensive gifts that arrived unannounced at my penthouse in Villa Olympia. He gave me a Colombian emerald necklace worth more than some houses, and when I protested that it was too much, he laughed and said I deserved the whole world. But it wasn't just the luxuries that kept me attached to him. It was the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention, as if I were the most precious thing in the universe. It was how he remembered small details about me, like my preference for white roses over red, or how I always drank my coffee with a dash of cinnamon. It was the way he protected me without suffocating me, empowered me without controlling me. Our relationship was a closely guarded secret. Our families could never know. The Monteiros, despite all our elegant crimes, always maintained a facade of respectability. I was seen as a brilliant and successful businesswoman. I frequented the best social circles, and I was photographed for society magazines. Publicly getting involved with a Vasconcelos would destroy everything I'd built. And Diego had his own reasons for keeping it a secret. His father, Don Roberto, was an old-school man who believed women like me were nothing more than dangerous distractions. He had already chosen a suitable wife for Diego, the daughter of another boss, who would cement an important alliance between the families. Our passion betrayed agreements that had been made before we even met. For 6 months, we lived this double life. During the day, we were polite strangers who greeted each other coolly at social events. At night, we were passionate lovers who met in safe apartments, discreet hotels, and hidden chalets in the Cantareira Mountains. We made love on Italian silk sheets as the rain beat against the windows, whispering promises of the future while the world slept outside. I knew I was falling madly in love, and that scared me more than any death threat I'd ever received in my business dealings. Diego had the power to destroy me completely, not just financially or physically, but emotionally. He had become my weakness, my blind spot, and in our world, weaknesses were luxuries no one could afford. The first crack in our perfect world came on a rainy Tuesday in June. I was in my gallery, overseeing the arrival of a private collection of Baroque art I had acquired from a family in debt to dangerous agents, when my phone rang. It was Diego, and his voice was different. Tense. Worried. He told me his father had found out about us. He didn't know how, but Don Roberto knew everything. Our meetings, our plans, Even the engagement ring Diego had commissioned with a 15-carat pink diamond that had cost over $2 million. The old man was furious, not only because of the disobedience, but because of the threat our relationship posed to the family business. That same night, I received a visit I'll never forget. 3 men in black suits appeared at the door of my gallery after hours. I recognized them immediately as Vasconcelos soldiers. They didn't need to say anything, just handed me a sealed envelope and left in silence. Inside the envelope was a single photo of us, taken during one of our secret meetings in Campos do Jordão. We were laughing, embracing, completely in love and unprotected. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message in elegant calligraphy simply said, "Finish it, or he dies." It wasn't signed, but I knew it came from Don Roberto. My first reaction was anger. How dare he threaten me? I had my own contacts, my own protection, my own resources. But then reality hit me like a punch in the gut. No matter how powerful or well-connected I was, I would never be a match for a man who had built a criminal empire over 40 years and who viewed his only son as his personal property. I spent 3 days unable to sleep, thinking about every possible option. Could I run away with Diego? We had enough money to disappear forever, start a new life somewhere no one would find us. But that would mean abandoning everything we'd built, constantly looking over our shoulder, always afraid that the past would catch up with us. Could I fight? My connections in the police and judiciary were extensive. I had compromising information on half a dozen important politicians. Perhaps I could secure official protection, some kind of arrangement that would keep us safe. But that would also mean exposing my own crimes, destroying my reputation, and probably spending a few years in prison. Or I could do the only thing Don Roberto expected of me, end it all, and disappear from his son's life forever. On Thursday night, I arranged to meet Diego at our special place, a penthouse. He kept in Jardins exclusively for our get-togethers. When I arrived, he was already there, standing on the balcony with a glass of Scotch whiskey in his hands, gazing out at the city lights. He looked even more handsome than usual, wearing that navy blue shirt I loved so much. His hair slightly tousled the way it did when he was nervous. When he turned to greet me with that smile that always melted my heart, I nearly lost my nerve. How could I destroy the only truly good thing that had ever happened in my life? How could I lie to the man who loved me with every fiber of his being? But then I remembered the photo, the veiled threat, the cold eyes of the men who visited me. If I didn't do this, Diego would die, and I would never forgive myself for that. It was better for him to hate me alive than to love me dead. Then I began to tell the most painful lies of my life. I told him I'd grown tired of our secret meetings, that I wanted something more than he could give, me. I told him I'd met another man, someone who could offer me a future without hiding or fear. I saw each word cut deep into his soul, saw the pain and confusion grow in his dark eyes. He tried to kiss me, tried to remind me of what we had, but I pulled away and told him it had just been a distraction, an adventure that had come to an end. Tears streamed down my face, but I pretended they were tears of relief at finally being free. Diego stared at me silently for long minutes, as if trying to find some trace of the woman he knew behind the cold mask I'd worn. Then, without saying a word, he pulled a small navy blue velvet box from his pocket. It was the ring. The damned ring he'd had made to propose to me. He set the box on the coffee table and said simply, "I was going to ask you to marry me tonight. I had it all planned out. I was going to tell you that I didn't care about my father, my family, anything but you. That we would run away together if we had to." His voice was broken, and I had never heard such pain in such simple words. I couldn't look at the ring, because I knew if I did, I'd completely break down and tell him everything. Instead, I grabbed my bag and walked toward the door, feigning a coolness that was killing me inside. Before he left, he simply said, "If you change your mind, I'll be waiting." These were the last words Diego Vasconcelos said to me. Over the next few months, I immersed myself in work with an obsession that worried even my most loyal employees. I expanded my business, opened 3 new galleries, and secured million-dollar contracts. During the day, I managed to keep myself busy enough not to think about him. But at night, when I was alone in my empty penthouse. The pain was almost unbearable. I learned from the social circles we frequented that Diego had changed after our breakup. Colder, more ruthless in business, more distant from everyone around him. I also learned that his father had accelerated plans for his arranged marriage, and that the ceremony would take place at the end of the year. It was then that the news arrived that would change everything forever. One September morning, while having breakfast on my balcony, reading the financial newspapers as I did every day, I saw a small item in the police section that made my blood run cold. Vasconcelos heir killed in car accident. Diego had died on a deserted highway the previous morning, returning alone from a business trip. The police were investigating the possibility of sabotage. My French porcelain cup slipped from my hands and shattered on the floor, but I didn't even feel the sound. The world had stopped around me, and all I could think was that the man I loved most in my life was dead, and I would never again have the chance to tell him the truth. In the following days, I discovered details that completely destroyed me. Diego hadn't died in an accident. He had been murdered by family rivals, people who wanted to weaken the Vasconcelos empire by eliminating the heir. And worst of all, he was returning from a meeting where he had tried to negotiate his exit from the family business. He was truly planning a different life, far from all that. At the wake, I kept my distance, watching from afar as dozens of powerful people paid their hypocritical respects. Don Roberto was unrecognizable, having aged years in a matter of days. When our eyes met briefly, I saw something in his eyes that made me understand everything. He knew I still loved Diego, and somehow, he blamed me for his death. It wasn't until I saw the coffin being sealed that I realized Diego was wearing the navy blue tie I'd given him on our third date. A simple tie with no special monetary value, but one he claimed was his favorite because I'd chosen it. At that moment, I completely broke down. After the funeral, I received an unexpected visit. Diego's personal lawyer came to my office with a letter he had left instructions to deliver to me should anything happen to him. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and read the words that I will forever hold in my heart. Isabella, if you're reading this, it means my enemies have finally caught up with me. I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, not for a second. I know something happened that night when you broke up with me, something you didn't tell me. I know you better than anyone, and I know it wasn't your words, but your fear speaking. I don't know what or who you were afraid of, but I hope that now, with my death, you are free from any threat. Use the money in the Zurich account to start over, to be happy in a way we never could be together. And if one day you find someone who loves you as much as I did, don't let fear win again. Life is too short to waste true love. Diego. Along with the letter was information about a Swiss bank account with $15 million and the deed to a house on a private island in the Caribbean that he had secretly purchased for us. Even in death, he was still watching over me. Today, 5 years later, I write this story from a balcony overlooking the crystal-clear Caribbean Sea. I used the money Diego left me to disappear completely, creating a new identity, a new life, far from everything I knew. Officially, Isabella Monteiro died in a boating accident 4 years ago. In reality, she died the day she lied to the only man she ever truly loved. Sometimes on full moon nights when the wind carries the scent of the ocean, I can still smell Diego's perfume, still hear his laughter echoing through the house he dreamed we'd share. I learned to live with the pain, but I never learned to live without him. The only thing that comforts me is knowing that somewhere, in some life that perhaps exists beyond this one, Diego finally understands that I never stopped loving him. That every lie I told was out of love, every cruel word was to protect him, even if in the end it was for nothing. True love, I discovered, isn't the kind that completes you or makes you happy. True love is the kind that transforms you forever, that marks your soul in a way that can never be erased. Diego was my true love, and even though our story ended in tragedy, I wouldn't trade a single second of the moments we shared. Because sometimes when you find something truly special, it's worth living with the pain of losing it than never having had the good fortune to find it. And if I could go back, in time, knowing how it would all end, I would still say yes to that first dance invitation. I would still accept that first glass of champagne. I would still get lost in your eyes on that balcony in Sao Paulo. Because some love stories are forbidden, not because they are wrong, but because they are too powerful for this world to bear.